Hello, everyone. Good morning from Santa Clara, California. Thanks for joining us to talk about Google's latest update today. There are just a few things you need to know before we begin, housekeeping items. Firstly, everybody joining the webinar today has been muted to avoid audio disturbance. If you do want to ask us any questions, you can use the Q&A button on your screen. Type up your questions as they come up, and we will address them at the end during our Q&A session. If we run out of time during the Q&A, we'll be happy to answer any remaining questions on our blog. And this webinar is being recorded, and it will also be posted there on the blog for you. I will also be personally sending up a follow-up email to everybody who is joining today. So that's going to include a link to the blog post. So you'll be able to get the video, you'll be able to get slides, everything you need. And without any further delay, I'm going to go ahead and introduce today's speakers. My name's Jake Brennan. I'm from Milestone's Santa Clara office. You might remember me from some of our past webinars. And as a moderator, I have the easy job. I get to introduce our expert presenters, and I will also help you get your questions answered. So today I am sitting with our two presenters. The first is Banu Agarwal. Banu is Milestone's president and founder. She's a recognized expert in digital marketing solutions, SEO, and local, and so much more. Banu oversees product development, client services, technology, and strategic vision for Milestone. And under her leadership, we've launched many award-winning websites and software products. Banu, thank you for joining us. You do a lot of things, so we're grateful you're taking the time to present today on such a hot-button topic. How are you feeling?
Awesome.
Great, me too. And next in line, we've got Satya Krishnamurthy. He is the head of products here at Milestone. Satya has over 17 years of experience in product management and strategy, and also new product launches and business ownership. He has an exceptional record of achievements in defining, delivering, and growing enterprise software products for startups and growing companies. And Satya ensures that our products deliver strong results, and he brings our teams together. We're grateful to have you on the webinar here today. How are you feeling, Satya?
Wonderful. Excited to talk about everything that we're doing here.
Awesome. Okay. Yeah, sorry. So before we start today's presentation, I think it's more appropriate than ever to explain who we are at Milestone and why we feel it's so important to present on topics like this one today. Milestone is a leading provider of digital marketing software and services for hospitality, retail, finance, and more. The truly full range of solutions we offer includes web and mobile design, content creation, SEO, analytics, competitive intelligence, and the list goes on. We pride ourselves on offering technology and solutions that drive revenue and a return on investment for our clients, which is why staying ahead of the digital changes and trends is so much a part of what we do for the good of our clients. We've done business with over 2,000 companies. The growing list includes leading hotel chains, major retailers, and financial services companies. And we've collected over 500 awards. We're really proud of our reputation for creating outstanding designs that are backed by advanced technological capability. And it's been an exciting year for us. Just a few months ago, we won the US Search Award for Best Use of Search in Finance, SEO, really exciting. And also it was just announced, this is actually the first time we're announcing it, that we won 8 HSMAI Adrian Awards this year. Super excited about that. And pleased that this is our first announcement. So with all of that being said, I think now it's time to pass it over to Banu, and she's going to kick off the presentation for us.
Thank you so much, Jake. And thank you, everyone. I know there are a lot of customers, there are a lot of acquaintances, and a lot of search experts on this webinar, and a lot of friendly competitors. We have some amazing material here, and hopefully we'll be able to answer all your questions. If not, you can always reach out to us. So BERT, this BERT is a core algorithm of Google, released last month. And it was such an exciting day for Milestone because everything BERT is kind of packaging it together. Milestone has been doing it. And it was great for us to see that how search is evolving and has evolved in the last 15+ years. So I'm going to go deep into what exactly is BERT, why it is critical for us to know about BERT and how it is impacting user experience, how search and consumer trends are impacting or is evolving, what are the must-have for us to capitalize, what are we noticing, which sites are gaining or losing, and what should be our digital strategy going into 2020. So let's start with overall, what exactly is a BERT update and how is it impacting us in our day-to-day life? This is one of the biggest updates in the last 5 years. And I'm sure a lot of you guys have seen this slide. And not that I love all these animals, but Google definitely loves all the pandas and penguins of the world. And this is evolution of last 15 plus years, where search used to be very, very text heavy. And it has gone from very text heavy to very conversational heavy. It has gone from very keyword rich to solving problem and really, really about consumer experience or user experience. So back those days, like 15 years back, algorithm used to be all about fighting spam. And that's where Google released no duplicate content, no spammy links. And then once all the community, everybody understood that we can't gimmick system, that's when they started launching Hummingbird, which was all about relevancy and precise results. Then they launched algorithm called Pigeon and mobile first, and the SERP quality and local algorithm. And again, I can keep going on and on and on. But if you guys want to really geek out, there is a link I have given from Dr. Pete. And this is, I personally follow him, so absolutely check it out. But end of the day, search has become all about user experience. It has become all about conversational searches because everything is evolving from text search to voice-driven searches. And that's exactly is what BERT algorithm is. It is understanding the intent. So next few slides, I'm gonna go deep into it, exactly what it is and how it is impacting our digital strategy. So number one, BERT update is an open source update. It is open source contribution. It is based on machine learning, natural language processing framework. What that really means, it is intended for search engines to understand conversational content. It is bidirectional. What that means is now search engines are becoming much more smarter. They can understand what's going to happen before and after the sentence. So it's really not about a keyword, it's the entire context around the sentence. So most of the algorithm released earlier, they were all unidirectional. This is the first algorithm in the last 5 years, which is bidirectional, which predicts next sentence and a previous sentence. Now, what that really means, a small tip, we got to understand what our user want. What is the intent behind the search? Enhancing the user experience and a content is a key to win. So let's go deep into what is the impact of BERT. And again, we are gonna go more into the case studies and things like that. Number one, queries, they are almost 10% increase, estimates up to 10% increase for queries which are voice ready, which means that if your content is voice ready, you are gonna get more searches, more searches. Your information is gonna be surface much higher than sites which are not conversational friendly. Number two, it is designed for conversational and natural language queries. So what that also means, you have to really start thinking about our content strategy, because it is giving you, this BERT update is giving you more love if your content is conversational friendly. Number three, the impact of BERT is much more relevant results on search engine screen, which is the most important thing, because remember, if everything is moving towards conversational search and voice search is taking over everything, and it's all about screenless devices and screenless searches, then it's all about user experience, less click, and really, really taking over, providing that right answer. So according to Google, BERT helps you understand nuances and context. What's happening in the what's happening, what is searcher looking for, and what information can be surfaced. And it's all about relevant right answer the very first time. Okay, so here is a quick example. This was published on Search Engine Journal, where they shared that after BERT update, same SERPs are much more conversational friendly. What that means is you can read these SERPs or search engine results are much more relevant, and it makes sense if voice device has to read these search engine results. And also, once you get these results, you don't have to click further because you got the right answer first time. And that's really a beauty of rich snippet. You don't need one more click. You got the answer first time. Whether it's an image search, whether it's a rich snippet, key for winning is to be precise, to be very selective, and be the right answer very first time. Okay, so now we know all about BERT, hopefully. BERT is, only thing you want to know, BERT is about user experience. It's not chasing algorithm, it is chasing our users, it's chasing their experience, which is a key for winning. Now let's look at some of the trends. And again, it's important to connect the dot. How's this gonna impact us, right? Yes, it is gonna impact us. Some of the biggest sites are getting impacted, but why are they getting impacted? So let's look at our digital strategy and pivot we need to make. Our users, they are getting very shorter attention span. More people are going to voice devices, more people are doing screenless searches, and very short span, lot of long tail queries. And this is a chart I just updated. Almost 65% of your searches today are on mobile searches. Out of that, 50% of them are voice-based searches. And also, by next year, 30% of those searches are going to be screenless searches. So in other words, it's really critical to think about user, who's constantly on the phone using voice command to find right information. And what's happening to query type? Because a lot of people are moving to voice, using voice search, queries are becoming longer. They are not very pointed queries. They are much more longer because we are solving problem for customer, right? So 84% of your queries today, they are informational queries, which are long tail queries. Now, this is, again, another chart. I just took it from RANDS. I'm sure everybody knows RAND from SparkTero, earlier Mars, that 56% of your clicks are now 0 clicks, which means people are not surfacing information from your domain or from any other domain and providing information right on Google screen or different search engines. Now, what does that mean? Does that mean that we don't need digital presence? Does that mean that, hey, we are all living in Google or Bing world? Yes, we do, but we want to be the voice. We want to be the one where information is coming out of our domain. We have built that authority and trust for our domain. So let's look at what that really means. And again, this morning, there was a news release that how rich answers in Google Mobile has almost doubled. And images have almost 150% increase as compared to the last year. So like you saw, my previous example, it's all about being there for that 0 click, being that right answer the very first time. And this used to be our traditional eye tracking model where you would go top, start to finish, scroll down. And now eye tracking model has changed. People are looking for right information on Google screen or a search engine screen, and they're not really scrolling down further. So here is an example of one of our clients, and again, these searches were done yesterday, where, and I used just the voice commands, where we had few questions. As we narrated those questions, these results are pulled. A beautiful, cute doggy also shows up because image is optimized for solving that problem, right? So image is nicely showing up, is providing answer. And it's not only providing answer for that query, but it's also supporting with everything else you might want to know, right? So it's also first know your customer, know what they're looking for, provide them accurate information, and then also think about what else they might want to know and provide that. And that's when you are completely going to take over search engine result page. Yes, you will have less click because you are providing information right up front. Once you have information right up front, people will not come to your site, which is okay, because end of the day, it's all about solving problem. It's fine if that person doesn't come to your site and they get the right result, but key is this result is coming from your domain. So you will see, marketer will see that more search saturation will lead into very high increase in impression share, but possibly decrease in clicks because people don't need to come to your site anymore. Information is surfaced through different devices, different places, right on that device. So really, what are we trying to say? What we are saying is your home page is not your home page. Your home page is a Google or a Bing home page, because you want to make sure for every single search engine result, for every single problem, you are providing right answer on that homepage. So now I'm going to have Satya walk us through how we have deployed this for some of our clients and what are we seeing, and also which sites are getting impacted. So Satya, now it's time for you to geek out.
All right, wonderful. So I want to continue within the same paradigm as what Benu has been talking about. Both Google and Milestone included, we are focusing on delivering best end user experience. It's not just about what we do for our customers, it's how our end customers are basically perceiving the content and finding us, and how we are owning the end customer experience. And at the end of this, what I want to give you guys is few things that you must do as a part of owning this best user experience. Let's start about user experience, expertise, authority, and trust. And this has been something that's thrown around a lot. And there are a lot of things that goes into basically building user experience, building expertise. Again, I'm going to stick with Hotel Nico as an example. Now, previously, booking a hotel used to be just go and book a room and then figure out what to do. But now hotels want to share their expertise in basically helping you design your day, or helping you plan things to do, helping you with events that are near you, sharing some restaurants, be the restaurants in the property or near the property. Now this shows, you are actually owning the user experience, not just online, but also offline, which means users who are searching for whether how do I get to your hotel from the airport, or what do I have to do, things I can do walking around from your hotel, what are all the things to do in Mission District, or can I bring my pet with me to this hotel? All of these questions are captured as a part of the overall user experience, picked up by Google, and they are shown in featured snippet. Now that, from a Google perspective, having these relevant content on your page marked up cleanly shows that you are expert in taking control of your user's experience. It's not just online, but also offline. You know what you're doing. You are in control of your business and your brand. Relevancy and clickability becomes another key factor as well. Now here, building some staff tips within the page makes this page a lot more interesting, because it's not just about things to do, but the concierge basically who gives you some tips about, hey, while you are walking through the wharf, look for some of the seals that are there on the fisherman's wharf. Now that's a great staff tip. If I'm a tourist, I'm going to love that tip. Now, what about embedding that tip that the concierge gives right there on your website? Now that's great. Not that from an information perspective gives a great information for the user. But it's not just about embedding the tips onto your website that makes it for the great website. It is also about the experience of finding that content. The user experience and UI UX part of building the website, making sure I can click through it. It's visible for the search engines, making sure that the font size is relevant, making sure the design is clean, making sure your digital assets are all aligned with your overall content strategy is going to be another huge step in building trust and experience as far as Google is concerned. And it's not just about search engines. It's also critical for customers who are searching for you on mobile, searching for you on desktop, making sure that they can navigate through your website, they can click through the content, they can find relevant content with ease. Okay, and that is the path that search engines are taking, wherein they want to navigate your site as your end customers would do, and understand your website as how an end customer is going to perceive your website. Now, as we are aiming towards best user experience, there are few things that you can do to make sure that your domain demonstrates solid expertise, authority, and trust. First and foremost thing is basically you can build authority by consistent and qualitative links. It's not just about you having all your business information, your contact information on your website, but having it on key sites like TripAdvisor, or making sure your Google My Business is up to date, or making sure your Yelp is up to date, or making sure you're listed on Yelp and you have your listings claimed, is going to be a key factor in making sure that Google trusts your domain and gives weightage for your domain. The next part is about technical SEO. Now, technical SEO, again, your website has to be indexable. Your website has to be crawlable. You need to have your image sitemap. You need to have your regular sitemap. You need to have your robots.txt. You need to have all your pages listed. If you have fresh content or new pages added, make sure your sitemap gets updated. Make sure if your AMP pages, if you have accelerated mobile pages, make sure your canonicals are set up correctly. Make sure your overall load times, indexable and crawlability aspects of your website is taken care. Now, the last piece, the third piece, I shouldn't say last piece, third piece is again another critical factor: relevant and fresh and conversational content. Now, previously relevancy is about just relevant and fresh content. The last factor got added recently, conversational. Now, why is this important? Primarily because as Benu mentioned it, and as several experts have continued to state that the search algorithms continue to evolve in a conversational model, and they are looking for not just relevant content and fresh content, but content that users are asking for. Is this what my users love? Is this a content that my users are talking about? Is this a content that my users will value the most? And am I showing expertise with this content? I mean, a hotel talking about train timings would be irrelevant, but hotel talking about the restaurant on site and the recipes and the nutrition about the restaurants on site would make it a lot more relevant. And keeping it updated with fresh menus and fresh events that are happening on the site and new citations that are coming from their users would make it for relevant, both from end customer perspective as well as for the search engine perspective. The fourth point is going to be very critical in terms of speed and mobile first. Now, there are several case studies there are some of them I'm going to highlight as well in my presentation. Page speed is becoming a huge critical factor, and mobile first indexing. If mobile first indexing is again becoming a huge critical factor in your ability to rank. We talked about having a great UI, great UX, as a part of your customer journey, making sure that you are delivering content in an appropriate way, in a clean way on mobile. The most important thing is that you can load as much content, as much imagery, as much videos as you want on your page, but are you loading it at a faster pace? Google is measuring both 4G and 3G networks and making sure that the mobile experience of your page on these 4G and 3G networks is up to par. Having 70 or above on your page speed is going to be very critical to make sure that that you're meeting some of the basic guidelines that Google has set forth. And we do have some tricks that I want to share with you guys on how to achieve some of these page speed. Making sure your designs are mobile first. What that means is you think about your mobile users first, and then figure out what are all the things that you want to do for your desktop users. Is again another critical element of your strategy. The last piece is again having a clean layout, making sure identify the key entities that you want to optimize for on your page as well as on your domain, making sure you give a great user experience in terms of be it animation, be it videos, be it content, making sure that your layout and the user experience is awesome. And finally, this is one of the critical elements, marking up your data with the right structure and right schema is going to get you further into basically more and more into Google homepage, right? Primarily because your Google search engines are going to better understand your content, not only understand the fact that you are able to provide expertise, they are also going to trust your content and accept the authority that bring in ensuring that your content is relevant and applicable. Now, I want to talk to you guys about a few sites that saw a big impact and why and what happened. And there has been quite a bit of noise around it, and there has been theories that what happened to this. So, and some of them blamed it on BERT, and some of them blamed it on some other reasons. When we ran our own analysis, some of the things that we identified were, we saw that Expedia dropped significantly and their stock price also dropped significantly. There was an article on why New York Times search ranking dropped after Google BERT update. When we dug deeper and we talked to the experts about this, as well as talked to several folks about it, we saw that in terms of content, Expedia's platform did not have one of the best content. It had a very thin content, and that thin content basically is one of the huge penalty factors. It's not just for BERT, but any search engine is going to start penalizing thin content. Then we come into New York Times, and New York Times was basically focusing on their mobile app and optimizing their experience on the mobile app, and they forgot the fact that it's the website also needs to be mobile friendly, and once mobile indexing was turned on for them, they saw a huge drop. And there were also several pieces of content that went inside the paid wall on their mobile experience, which caused a big pay drop. Now, what are these two stories telling us? Number one, thin content is a bad idea. You need to have richer content and relevant content, and not focusing on mobile first and not focusing on page speed is going to have impact on your ranking. And Google is being Google and both Google and Bing are being very severe about making sure the experience these two factors are addressed very clearly. And some of the things that we saw on sites that did have all these best practices and also had long tail queries, we saw this for a financial institution that we work with. We saw huge fluctuations post BERT update on their FAQ queries and some of the rich results that started appearing on the featured snippets. And what we saw was, over a period of time, as the FAQ content started surfacing more and more, we saw that this stabilized over a period of time post BERT update, and we saw that it basically stabilized at a much higher ranking for some of these long tail and FAQ queries. And then on corollary, we saw a huge decline on a site that is near and dear to us. And we started analyzing why did this site drop significantly. And this belongs to our one of our good friends. And we started looking at why this site dropped significantly. We saw that best practices of mobile first were not followed. The indexability and crawlability were poor. Their sitemap was poorly designed or non-existent. Their robots.txt was again non-existent. And the overall experience, even though it was content rich, the overall experience was not optimized for mobile. Now, all of this reinforces the fundamental 5 factors that we talked about. And again, for the sake of reiterating, it is going to be reiterating our slide, this slide. I want to make sure that you guys understand authority, technical SEO, relevancy, speed, and clickability. Now, none of this has changed. They have changed from in the last couple of years. Only thing is that they have gotten a lot more stricter and stringent. But as search engines are getting more and more of these sites that do not follow the rules and have gone rogue, they are start getting penalized if they do not follow these 5 basic functionality. And none of this has anything to do with BERT. These are just best practices. Okay, and of course, sites that were big and had relevant content, fresh content, and were meeting some of the what we call as fresh content queries, they were treated very, very well. They got a lot of love from Google as well as from Bing, and they had a huge boost in their rankings. And this was again by Dr. Peter. This was again reflected on November 14th Google update, as mentioned by Moss as well, right? So sites that followed all the best practices continued to grow. Sites that did not follow the best practices had a significant impact. And this is nothing to do with BERT. It is basically about best practices at the end of the day.
Okay, thanks a lot, Satya. So based on what you were saying, we'd just like to ask a quick poll question of everybody. Sorry, it says Q&A, but it should say poll. So of the 5 key areas we discussed that Satya just talked about, which are the highest priority for you in 2020? And let me just launch this poll. So of your options there, authority, links and citations, technical SEO with regards to indexability and crawlability, your relevancy, your speed, or your clickability. And these are the most, I mean, all of these are important, but what are the most important for you? And you should be able to select multiple answers. So we've got responses rolling in. Seems like we've got a front runner. Interesting. Okay, I'm going to give it about 5 seconds. 4, 3, 2, 1. Okay, so it seems like a decently even spread here, with relevancy of content coming out as the #1 concern for folks. Okay, very interesting.
Yes.
Awesome.
Brilliant. So, and that actually, this was along as expected, I would say, because now that brings us actually to a very interesting factor, is that what is that you're going to measure? Like, what are you going to measure as Google is becoming more and more your homepage, and you're investing a lot in these 5 key components, making sure you have relevant content, making sure you have long tail content, making sure that you have mastered your technical SEO, you have mastered page speed. What is that you're going to see, and what is that you're going to measure? First and foremost thing that you're going to see is search saturation. You're going to rank more and more around these long tail queries. You're going to see your impression share that is it's going to continue to grow. You will as you start occupying, as Benu pointed out, 0 clicks are becoming more and more critical. As you start seeing more and more 0 click results, you are ranking for more and more 0 click results. You're going to see that your clicks are going to go down, but your overall impressions are going to grow. Now, the question would be: is it fair for us to? There is an interesting metric on the right side. is it fair for me to measure year over year on this and say that, oh my goodness, my clicks have dropped so much, but oh, my impressions have grown by 34,000%. Is it going to be relevant? Absolutely not. Primarily because some of these functionality, some of these concepts like featured snippets, some of these concepts like zero click has been evolving probably in the last 6 to 9 months. And Google is continuing to invest in these long tail queries and making sure that more and more results, search results are getting surfaced in the top 1 or 2 lines of the search results. And what that means is your focus is going to be getting your content relevant rather than and making sure overall impressions are growing rather than focusing on what my year over year performance on impressions and clicks going to be. We cannot be very happy about 34,000% increase, nor be happy about or dejected about a huge decline in our clicks. So that's the key message. Impressions are, again, one of the, I shared that result for the financial institution. And again, another similar example in hospitality, we are seeing a huge increase for long tail on the FAQ queries, as well as long tail queries. And we don't see a corresponding increase in clicks. And that points to the fact that more and more of these queries are continuing to be taken from the website, picked up from the website, being indexed by the search engines, then being surfaced on some of these featured snippets and being answered on voice devices with no clear follow through actions. So this means that there is no clicks, no booking, no transactions associated with this, but your brand awareness and your impression share overall is growing for some of these relevant queries that your users are asking about your business. Right? And as visibility is continuing to grow, and newer and newer SERPs are being surfaced by Google. We started talking about FAQs and people. Then there is people also ask for. Then there is some of these featured snippets. Then there is additional opportunities with long tail strategy. All of this basically points to the fact that quality conversational content is much more critical than a keyword-rich content. So if you are focusing on, as a part of your content marketing strategy, if you are focusing on just picking and optimizing for few or one-off keywords, that's going to be a lot more detrimental to your strategy rather than focusing on full conversational content, understanding what your users' search intent is, understanding what rather than what keywords that they're asking for, what conversations that they want to have with your business, both online and offline. And key piece of this is basically focusing on not just your core part of the business, but also thinking about other things that your users might need. It's not just about publishing. If I'm a restaurant, it's not just about publishing my menu, but also publishing my nutritional information, publishing some of the recipes that are interesting for the users, make it more relevant for users and shows expertise, and make it and having things like events and things to do, make it more and more compelling for the users as a part of the overall search strategy. Vinny, you want to add some points here?
No, I think you kind of covered it. This is the experiment we ran with one of our clients, and we had mobile, we had every single thing which we could do to build authority, expertise, and trust, which included mobile, FAQ, events, things to do. And it was so amazing to see great visibility, lot of mobile share, lot of long tail, and it's just doing phenomenal in featured snippet.
And one of the things that folks come to us and they struggle with page speed. Now, as pages become more and more heavy, as multimedia creeps into every single aspect of my day-to-day life, pages are becoming heavy. Now, I'm having two problems. Number one, I have to make my page engaging and animation heavy. At the same time, Google is forcing me to load it fast. And one of the things that we have found, and we have used this very efficiently, is tying together some of our content strategies with accelerated mobile pages. Now, accelerated mobile pages basically strips out all these unwanted scripts and a whole lot of shebang that goes into a page, and keeps it light and focuses on the long tail content, and focuses on basically getting you the traffic, both at the featured snippet level as well as driving traffic to your website. We recently implemented this for a few retailers who were struggling with page speed, and we saw their overall mobile traffic go up by 25 to 35%. And it not just their overall mobile traffic went up, their AMP pages were being cached by Google and rendered much efficiently. Their conversion rates went up, and not just their conversion rates, but also their overall the critical keywords that they were focused on, the long tail, both their keywords as well as their long tail keywords that they were focusing on, went up in ranking as the pages perform much better, both with content and accelerated mobile pages tied together. And as we see, more and more impressions now are being driven on mobile. And one of our strategies, as we deploy our strategy for FAQ as well as accelerated mobile pages, we are seeing that accelerated mobile pages are driving a lot more than what we originally anticipated, as page speed is becoming more and more important for Google and Bing, so that they want to basically render things at a much faster pace, and getting it into front of their end customers is going to be a lot more critical for them. So they are giving weightage to sites that have some of these technologies in place, so that their overall performance, we see a significant growth as a part of the strategy.
Okay, so we just wanted to give you all a quick pop quiz. One true or false question, should be pretty easy, but maybe a little bit trickier than you'd think. So let me just launch that for you. True or false? This statement: you can optimize for BERT. What do you think? It's a little bit tricky. I don't know if the wording is confusing. Okay, let's give it 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. And share. True. You can optimize for BERT. Is that correct?
No, you actually cannot optimize for BERT. You can optimize for user experience, because BERT is all about user experience. It is not an algorithm which is away from user experience. So yes, you optimize for user experience, not for BERT.
Got it. That is pretty tricky.
Okay, thank you. And thank you, Satya. This was great. Okay, so let me recap. I know there are a lot of questions from everyone, so I'll take 2 minutes and recap. What are the key takeaways? What are the critical element of your 2020 strategies? Number 1, speed, and speed. Please check your speed, your mobile speed, your desktop speed, because if your speed is if it's not fast enough, you're not going to be in any kind of indexing. So yes, and it has become very hard. In the last year and a half, 2 years, Google have made a lot of changes to ensure that if you are not following best practices, your site is not going to have best speed. Number 2, mobile first. Why? Because everything is moving to mobile. Think about, yes, we all fall in love with our beautiful design, which is important, which is critical. But what's critical is where is your customer? If they are on voice, if they are on mobile, we got to think about mobile first and mobile indexing. There is a new release that if site is not on HTTPS, they are going to see a significant drop in traffic. So ensure that your site, your technical SEO, crawlability, indexability, HTTPS, they're all buttoned up. Content. Yes, keywords are important, but it's more important to think about intent, your conversational content. I always say is content marketing is just not keywords and titles and meta tag. It's about health of your content, understanding your audience, what are they looking for, what problem you are solving for them. Think about Nico Hotel example, think about financial districts example. We knew exactly what people were looking for. And that comes, and then next come from knowing my customer, knowing my audience, knowing their touch point, knowing their journey. Building authority. You cannot have 15 sites pointing to one, building authority for your one domain. It has to be one domain where you are truly building authority as an expert and enhancing your clickability. Okay, and why I say enhancing your clickability, because form follow function, if you don't have really good digital asset, it's going to be very hard to structure that content. Your content comes last. First your design, and then schema, and then the content, which enables you to get perfect clickability, or in other words, user experience. Okay, so just to wrap it up, Google is your new homepage, or Bing is your new homepage. I know we all fall in love with our desktop design. This is awesome, but it's only 30%. Let's fall in love with where our customers are, which is Google and mobile. Number 2, impression share is your new golden KPI. We cannot, yes, we can do year over year, but think about what Satya said. Zero click is growing. Even in the last 4 months, it has grown from 47 to 53%, and it's going to continue to keep going. So monetizing, making sure you saturate search on search engine result is the key for winning. Impression share is really, really critical KPI. User experience is critical. Let's figure out what are people looking for, from heat map studies to conversion studies. It's a bounce rate. Let's ensure deliver what they want. Content has to be written for conversation, because algorithms are going to reward intent. Are you satisfying that intent? Are you giving a right answer the very first time? And don't forget 5 pillars. It's all about the milestone. If you have milestone right, you're going to be built for success. So that's wraps it up. And I know we are ready for question. I just wanted to tell you, I'm really, really happy to be doing some of the Bangalore event, which is hosted by SEM Rush. There are 2 keynote speeches I'm doing with Purna, really good friend of mine from Bing, and then also upcoming event which is going to be in January. Yes,
January. Yep.
January.
Late January.
So please do log in, and thank you so much. I know there are a lot of participants, a lot of questions, so go ahead.
All right, great. Yeah, let's get started with the Q&A with a good but very brief question. Actually, I thought it would be a good one to start with. One attendee asks, "What is BERT? Can you explain it in brief? What is your elevator pitch for BERT?"
BERT is about understanding your site, not just in terms of keywords, but in terms of sentences, both and sentences and paragraphs rather. So essentially, my elevator pitch is, think about how as a human being you are going to go and read a content. Are you looking for keywords, or are you looking for full sentences and paragraphs and understanding them as sentences and paragraphs? That's exactly what search engines are trying to do with BERT.
Perfect. Thank you. Okay, so the next question here. This one relates to voice search. How can voice searches be tracked through a basic SEO and SEM analytics dashboard? Is that even possible right now?
It is possible, because a lot of voice queries are always coming. They're all long tail.
Yep.
And these are why, how queries. And if you're going into Search Console, you can also separate it out and see all the long tail queries, which are why, how, and most of them are coming from mobile. So that's the way to.
Yeah, I agree with that. So our Search Console is definitely has started providing at least some of the long tail queries that you're ranking for. That is definitely a first place to look for. But certainly that's not going to give you opportunities. That tells you what you're ranking for. For opportunities, you have to do your content research and understand what potentially your users could be searching for. But what you're already ranking for is something that we look at Search Console, and we of course look at some of our partners like SEM Rush to get some guidance on.
Makes sense. The next question here: is there any way to report on these zero-click impressions?
Actually, we are still waiting on Google to start reporting that in their Search Console. It has been a long pending announcement. I guess we are waiting on Search Console. I know that we heard rumors that it's going to come in fall. but Twitterverse is still unclear on when Google is going to report on this.
But I think if you're looking into impression, typically your impression goes up. So one way of really report onto the zero click is your impression. Start using impression, because your impression will not go up if zero clicks are not going up.
That makes sense. And actually, I had another question here that related to that. Let me see if I can find that. Sorry, we had a lot of questions come in. Here we go. What's the most efficient way to measure impression share?
You know, most efficient way to measure impression share, I would say impression share, we should all pull in from Search Console, because it gives you the most accurate metrics of what is your impression share. And the good thing is that now it's breaking down your mobile impression share, your desktop impression share, your AMP impression share, your events impression share, your FAQ impression share. So you can literally see how you're saturating your SERP results, your image impression share. It shows everything in Search Console. So absolutely, that's the easiest way. It's most reliable for you to kind of, know what's happening to your impression share.
Makes sense. And we had another question come in, someone just asking about the reason for less clicks and more impressions. And it makes sense now that the zero click impressions is what's tipping the scale towards there being a lot more impressions.
Yep.
Okay, next question. Is BERT currently available in other countries besides the USA? I don't know.
They are still working on multilingual BERT.
Okay, so, and there's no date available on that we know of? Okay, Google being mysterious, they tend to do that.
I have to take a really good friend of mine question here. Lauren, hello, how are you? Thank you for joining. So yes, his question is that should we consider that these long tail intent-driven content pages should have call to action? I think they should, because what I said, form follows function. If your long tail content is well structured, that's where you can have higher conversion. So absolutely you should.
Okay, great. And also, Lauren asked, is your baseline speed load 3 or 4 seconds?
We look at the page speed score at, we want to load everything in 3 seconds or lower. But it also depends on some of the website parameter and how we are doing competitively. Some of the heavier sites, which are loaded with digital assets, we try to achieve either at least 70 or above in the page speed score, and at least try to achieve at least 4 seconds. But yeah, our baseline is 3 seconds or less, and we try to get everything done in 3 seconds. And we're also doing a significant amount of work on our server infrastructure to support that cost.
Less than 3 seconds sounds good to me. Another question here. Is it true that Google now favors easy to digest content that answers a question quickly? And does that mean that perhaps pillar pages will be less critical to build out?
I don't think that's true. I mean, there is nothing called easy to digest. It's more about is it relevant content is what you need to look for, and that has not changed. And it is just that the way Google understands your page has changed. But is content relevancy as a part of your content marketing strategy going to be critical? Absolutely yes, and that has not changed. And again, BERT has only reinforced, BERT and mobile first migration has only reinforced a lot of the things that we've been talking about as best practices for the past, I don't know, Benu has been talking about it for the past 19, 20 years.
Oh my God, you're making me so old, Satya.
I'm just saying. And I've been talking about it for the past 2 years, 2, 3 years maybe. But yeah, it's only reinforces the original premise of having a clear content strategy that is more user-friendly, having your sites being more user-friendly and search-friendly, and having content that is relevant for what your users are searching for.
I want to take this one question from Mandy. As a digital agency, how can I measure and show ROI in digital marketing if customers are not visiting the website?
Great question.
And I think that is why Satya and I, we both said we got to educate our C executive that is all about, it is about impression share. It's about being the right answer. And I know it is hard because I kind of play both the role. And one thing you can do is do a quick demo, right? When people are not even going to the website, it's being the right answer is what we want to focus on. And what I would say, introduce a new metric called impression share and literally try to say impression share is what we want to go after. Search saturation is what we want to go after.
Okay, here's another good question. A good question for people like me that don't necessarily understand this stuff that well. How do you define conversational content? I don't know how I would define it.
I can take it. One thing about conversational content is it's really simple. It was, I think, John Mueller had quoted, or somebody has said that, is this a content which is friendly? It's written for 6th to 8th grader, right? It doesn't have to be written for, somebody who has done PhD or a scholar, right? It's not your branding, really literal English. It is a little bit more on conversation content, which is solving problem for your customer. Because think about it, when screens are not in front of you, it's only voice devices, it's how friendly it is. It's your day-to-day language. It's not perfect English and perfect everything.
Okay.
Yeah, I agree with that. Conversational content is about how Jake, Benu and I, we are talking today, and
minus curses, right?
Minus curses, yes.
Yes.
We don't want to follow that.
Okay, good to know. Keep the curse words out of your conversational content. Makes sense. Our next question here, do you see this long-term intent-driven content development for UI branching out into long-term domain name development and injecting them into deep links?
No, I don't. Actually, it's such a good question, and I'm going to geek out a little bit here because think about it. It's about entity search, right? Your content can be coming from your domain or from anywhere else. It doesn't matter as long as it is the right content. And in fact, that is why I say it's digital asset optimization rather than your website optimization, because your digital asset could be anywhere. You could be optimizing it for voice index. You could be optimizing for mobile, for YouTube, for video, for images, and 100 other places.
Awesome. Okay, we are almost out of time, but let's see if we can get in a few more questions. Could either of you explain clickability? Satya, what did you mean when you were talking about clickability?
Actually, Benu would be a better person to explain clickability than I am.
Okay, Benu.
She is actually the master of defining this.
I hope I can define it, right? I'm trying to coin new word here. So clickability is all about user experience, right? And like we kind of shared here is everything we can do to make sure experience for your user is phenomenal, whether it's your website or is away from your website, right? So clickability in my eyes is your designs, your structure, your content, your load time, how your platform is driven, right? You can have beautiful site, but if it doesn't load or speed is really bad, it still doesn't work. So clickable, and it needs to be structured. Search engine needs to be able to understand, and the content has to follow searcher intent. So that's really, in my eyes, is clickability, your desire to click on that asset. It doesn't have to come from your site. It can come from anywhere.
Okay. And we are essentially out of time, but I just want to ask this one more question because I love this question. How do you explain any of this to a senior leader who has no idea what any of it means? Any hot takes on that one?
No, so actually the key takeaway is the relevance of website is not gone. In fact, I would go one step and say you need to focus on both SEO, content strategy, and technical SEO more than ever if you want to retain your brand share. As featured snippets are zero-click results are becoming more and more relevant. If you do not answer a question that is relevant for you, somebody else is going to answer that question. Google is not going to say that I don't know the answer for that question. Google is going to give an answer. The only question is, does your brand own that answer, or does somebody else own that answer? If you want your brand to own that answer, then you need to do some of these basic things that we talked about, which is having a strong technical SEO, having a strong content marketing, marketing as well as strong user experience. Page speed is going to be very relevant. Mobile first is going to be very relevant, and making sure conversational content is part of your overall content marketing strategy is going to be very relevant.
Thank you. I think that's a really great summary. We're out of time, but Banu, Satya, thanks so much for taking time to put this together. It's a really hot topic, so we had to kind of pull it together quickly, and we appreciate it.
Thank you so much. And I know there are so many other questions. You guys all have our email, so please do email us. Happy to help. And this is going to be posted on our blog. Thanks all.
That's right. All of these questions that we weren't able to answer, there were quite a few. We'll post them on the blog, and we will send out a recap of that as early as tomorrow with the video and everything. So thank you so much for joining in. Keep an eye out for our 2020 Digital Marketing Trends webinar, and have a great day, everybody.